There is something quietly running in the background of every decision you make, every deadline you meet, every role you step into with grace and grit. It is not your calendar, your morning routine, or even your ambition. It is your nervous system. And for high-functioning women over 40, understanding this invisible force may be the most transformative shift you never knew you needed. Most women in this season of life are no strangers to high performance. They lead teams, raise families, build businesses, manage households, and still find time to show up for others. But somewhere in the relentless rhythm of doing, a quiet exhaustion begins to settle in. Not the kind that a good night's sleep fixes. Something deeper. Something that feels like running on empty even when life looks full from the outside. That feeling is not a personal failure. It is a signal. Your nervous system is speaking, and it is time to start listening. The nervous system is far more than a biological concept from a science textbook. It is the command center of your entire lived experience. It governs how you respond to a tense email from a colleague, how your body feels after a long day of back-to-back meetings, and how quickly you can shift from stress mode back into a state of calm. At its core, the autonomic nervous system operates through two primary states. The first is the sympathetic state, often called fight or flight, which activates when your body perceives a threat. The second is the parasympathetic state, sometimes referred to as rest and digest, which allows your body to recover, restore, and regulate. For many high-achieving women over 40, the sympathetic state has become the default. The body is so accustomed to operating in urgency that it has forgotten how to fully downshift. And here is where the real conversation begins, because chronic activation of the stress response does not just affect how you feel in the moment. It reshapes how you think, how you connect, and how you perform over time. There is a version of success that looks brilliant on the surface, but quietly costs you everything underneath. When the nervous system stays locked in a state of chronic stress, the body begins to pay a price that compounds over time. Cognitive clarity starts to blur. Decision-making becomes harder. Emotional resilience thins. Sleep becomes fragmented even when exhaustion is overwhelming. Relationships feel like one more thing to manage rather than a source of genuine nourishment. For women over 40, this is further complicated by hormonal shifts that already place additional demands on the body's regulatory systems. Estrogen, which plays a significant role in modulating the stress response, begins to fluctuate during perimenopause and menopause. This means the nervous system becomes even more sensitive during this life phase, and what once felt manageable can suddenly feel like too much. The ambition has not changed. The capacity for hard work has not disappeared. But the body's ability to sustain performance without adequate regulation begins to shift. Ignoring this shift does not make you stronger. It simply delays the reckoning. Here is the reframe that changes everything. Nervous system regulation is not about slowing down or stepping back from your goals. It is not a retreat from ambition. It is the very foundation that makes sustainable high performance possible. Think of regulation as the recovery phase in athletic training. Elite athletes do not train at maximum intensity every single day. They understand that the rest period is where the actual growth happens. The muscles repair, the nervous system recalibrates, and the body comes back stronger. The same principle applies to how you live and lead. When you create consistent space for your nervous system to regulate, you are not wasting time. You are investing in the quality of everything you do when you return to action. Your focus sharpens. Your creativity expands. Your emotional bandwidth widens. You become less reactive and more intentional. You stop operating from a place of survival and start leading from a place of genuine clarity. Regulation does not diminish your edge, it refines it. Regulation does not require a 2-week retreat or a dramatic overhaul of your life. It lives in the small, consistent practices that signal safety to your body throughout the day. One of the most immediate tools available to you is breathwork. Slow, intentional breathing, particularly extending the exhale, directly activates the parasympathetic nervous system. Something as simple as inhaling for 4 counts and exhaling for 6 to 8 counts can shift your physiological state within minutes. Movement also plays a powerful role, but not just any movement. Gentle, rhythmic activities like walking, stretching, or yoga communicate safety to the nervous system in a way that intense, high cortisol exercise sometimes cannot. This does not mean abandoning your fitness routine. It means being intentional about balancing intensity with restoration. Connection is another profound regulator. The nervous system is inherently social. Co-regulation, the process by which our nervous systems attune to those around us, is a biological reality. Time spent in the presence of safe, warm, and supportive people genuinely shifts your internal state. Prioritizing those relationships is not indulgent. It is neurologically necessary. Finally, sensory experiences like spending time in nature, listening to music that moves you, or even placing your hands in warm water can serve as gentle anchors that bring your system back into balance. The culture of high achievement often glorifies busyness as a badge of honor. The fuller the schedule, the more important you must be. The more you produce, the more you are worth. But this narrative is not just exhausting. It is fundamentally disconnected from how human beings are designed to thrive. Intentional being is not passivity. It is presence. It is the practice of pausing long enough to reconnect with your own inner landscape before moving into the next demand. It might look like sitting quietly with your morning coffee before opening your phone. It might look like taking 3 conscious breaths before entering a difficult conversation. It might look like ending your workday with a brief ritual that signals to your body that the doing is complete for now. These moments of intentional being are not gaps in your productivity. They are the threads that hold the fabric of your performance together. When you practice being as deliberately as you practice doing, you begin to notice something remarkable. The quality of your doing transforms. You bring more of yourself to what matters and less of your scattered, depleted energy to what does not. Success for a high-functioning woman over 40 does not have to look like relentless output measured against an ever-moving goalpost. It can look like waking up with genuine energy rather than dread. It can look like navigating a high-stakes conversation without your heart racing out of control. It can look like being fully present with the people you love at the end of a demanding day. It can look like trusting your instincts because your mind is clear enough to hear them. When your nervous system is regulated, you do not just perform better in the conventional sense. You live better, you relate better, you lead better. The version of you that emerges from a place of internal balance is not softer or less capable. She is more grounded, more discerning, and more powerfully effective than the version running on adrenaline and willpower alone. Redefining success through this lens is not giving up on greatness. It is choosing a form of greatness that is actually sustainable, one that does not require you to sacrifice your health, your joy, or your sense of self at the altar of achievement. Your nervous system is not an obstacle to your ambitions. It is the very vehicle through which your most meaningful contributions will be made. Nurture it with the same dedication you bring to everything else, and watch what becomes possible.